Welcome to Sweet Georgia Sports. My name is George Fox and I'm joined today by a good buddy of mine, Steve Pennington. Steve, how are you doing today?
George, the Falcons are NFC South champions playing for a first-round playoff bye. How else could I be any better?
That's right, we are the NFC South champions. Today we're going to talk about the Falcons' chances in the playoffs, picking their best matchup and worst matchup. Steve, let's hear the bad news first.
The bad news for us is if we eventually have to play the Dallas Cowboys. And the reason for that, let's start with looking at what has worked against them this year. So clearly they've only lost 2 games, both to the New York Giants. They've done that with stifling defense and really confusing Dak and making him look actually like a rookie. They've been able to hold that offense. Even last game, the Cowboys scored 7 points in the entire game.
Yep.
And that's not a formula that the Falcons have. I think we have a mediocre defense that's on the rise. We don't have the pass rush, and we don't have the overall defensive schemes that the Giants have. And I think if that's the only way to beat them, then we might not have that winning formula.
Right, I agree. The Falcons and the Cowboys are actually built in a similar way rather than being against each other. So we both have really high-powered offenses that are designed to get ahead, and then both fan bases can kind of pray that the defense will eventually make a stop.
Right, and I think the problem with the way they're built is their offense runs on 2 main key components. Number one, the most notable that everybody knows about, they have probably the best offensive line in football, and I'm worried that they can push our mediocre defensive front around and create some room for Ezekiel Elliott to do his thing. And I really think that they do excel at medium, kind of intermediate passes to people like Jason Witten, Cole Beasley. Those are their 2 main weapons. And then you have to worry about Des Bryant, of course, getting in the mix. But those are things that as a team that has 2 rookie linebackers starting, coverage on intermediate passes and passes out to running backs has not been our forte all year, even going back a few years. So given that that's how their whole offense is designed, I'm not sure we have the defensive tools to keep up with that.
Right, and the Cowboys' offense is actually far more diverse than people might think. A lot of people think that they just hand the ball to Ezekiel Elliott every single play, and that's obviously not true. They have quite a strong passing game. I actually just watched the Lions-Cowboys game in Week 16 today, and the Lions' defense, which is far superior to the Falcons' defense, got decimated. So I can certainly share that there are concerns if we play the Cowboys. But the reason why I don't think the Cowboys are our hardest matchup is because their defense won't be able to attack us if we keep them on the field all game. So the way that the Cowboys are built is that they get ahead and then their defense can get at the other team. But I don't think they can get away from this Cowboys offense, and I think we'll be able to outscore them.
And the only problem I have with the outscoring part, the only reason that I think our offense might be held in check is that the Cowboys they're second in the league in time of possession. So they're efficient, not a big play type of offense with getting those rushing yards and those intermediate passes for first downs. They keep the other offense off the field, which our offense, if you put them on the field, have been shown that they can play with anybody and they can beat anybody on any given day. But if you keep them off the field, there's only so much they can do.
So really, it's the battle of the time of possession.
I think so. If it comes down to that, the Cowboys have the edge. There's no doubt about that.
Well, for me, the Falcons do have the formula to beat the Cowboys, but they don't have the formula to beat, in my opinion, their hardest matchup, which is the Seattle Seahawks. What's your take on our chances against Seattle, Steve?
Well, we did play them tough earlier in the year. We lost by 2 points, had a chance to come back in the fourth quarter, and that was in Seattle. I think since then they've lost some key components. Earl Thomas is out. I believe Tyler Lockett is out for the entire postseason. That's another dynamic playmaker we don't have to worry about. They also have a terrible offensive line. I think Pro Football Focus rated them the absolute worst by a wide margin. So I think Vic Beasley could have a great chance to really disrupt Russell Wilson, who has been hobbled all year. He's not as agile, not as able to escape pressure as he has been in years past. And behind that line, it's a problem. So I really think that having played them tough already and having them banged up even more so than when we played, and the fact that we may play them in Atlanta, I really think that there's a recipe for us to, get revenge for that earlier game.
Right. I mean, for me, the question's a bit different. Can their defense stop our offense? And in my opinion, yes, they can. So the Falcons dominate games on offense by winning every single battle. So the line of scrimmage, the receivers in the corners, the running backs and the linebackers. And we just can't run the ball in Seattle. And we saw that in week 6. So in many ways, I see that Seattle is almost purpose-built to beat us. I watched the game from week 6 again today, and we scored on 2 blown coverages. I just can't see that happening again against this proud Seattle defense.
That's a great point. That's not something you can ever bank on from the Seattle defense that year in and year out is in the top 3. It seems like every year going back 3 or 4 years. So I really think that, that's going to be our toughest matchup for me outside of Dallas. So I see your point there, but I really think we can hang with them just like we did before. 1 or 2 plays go our way, we win that matchup in week 6. So, I think they are beatable, but that's a tall order for a Falcons team that hasn't really had a lot of postseason success compared to the Seattle Seahawks, who are the epitome of in there every year along with the Patriots.
And do we have an answer for Jimmy Graham?
Jimmy Graham's going to be tough. He's very athletic, and we do struggle with coverage on tight ends. We have all year. So I think with his athleticism, it depends if he shows up. He seems to have those games where he makes those monster one-handed highlight reel grabs, right, and then some where maybe his heart's not in it. I'm not sure what it is, but Jimmy Graham is going to be probably the toughest matchup on that whole offense for our defense.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, Steve, but I'm interested. What would you say the best game plan for the Falcons would be taking on Seattle?
I think we're going to have to stretch the field horizontally. I really do. I think that we're going to have a lot of dump passes to Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman and beat them on the outside, given that they have such a great defense in the back and in the middle. Bobby Wagner, I think, is one of the most underrated defenders in the entire league. So I really think we're going to have to, hopefully Taylor Gabriel is healthy. I know he's out this week. But doing plays like that, bubble screens to him, and then just having him break that coverage, get by 1 or 2 guys, I really think those, rather than the deep vertical threats, are going to be our key to success.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Kyle Shanahan as well, because our third quarter adjustments have been amazing this year. In years when we've watched Falcons teams just never adjust on either side of the ball. We were actually down 17-3 in that first Seattle game, and we came back to be in the lead. We lost in the end, but shout out to him. So I feel we're going to agree here on the good news, Steve, or the good matchup. I've got the Detroit Lions. Are you on the same page?
Yes, the Detroit Lions, I am praying. My girlfriend, a Packers fan, does not want to hear this. I'm praying they beat the Packers because, A, I don't want to deal with the Packers. They were close to being on my worst matchup list.
Okay.
But the Detroit Lions, we beat them in every facet of the game, and it's not even close. They have won 8 games where they were losing in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Their best team that they've beaten so far this year is the Washington Redskins, who might not even make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs, they beat absolutely 0 playoff teams. They only score 21 points per game. Matthew Stafford only has multiple touchdowns in 2 of the last 9 games. That is not an offense that is going to be able to keep up with this Falcons offense. And their defense, like you said, is pretty good. Darius Slay is a great cornerback. They have some good linebackers, good defensive front. But it's not like the Seahawks. It is not anywhere close, I don't think, to being a top of the league, Denver Broncos type or Seattle Seahawks type. That's my dream matchup. We would beat the Detroit Lions 45-3, and I would put everything I have on that.
Oh wow, okay, that's a big claim. So we'll see if we actually do play those, and we'll see if you put.
I might need to borrow some. If we end up playing them and I make that bet, I might need to borrow some money, George.
Well, yeah, exactly. There you go. The only team the Lions have played this year that is built at all like the Falcons is Dallas, and they completely blew the Lions out in week 16. And just adding to your kind of offensive woes and stats for the Lions, Theo Riddick is their leading rusher. How many yards has he got, Steve?
I'm guessing 330 yards.
357 yards.
Oh, I undersold him. Wow,
Yep,
that's
exactly.
That's fearsome.
Shots fired towards Theo Riddick. And their leading receiver is Golden Tate. So, I mean, this line team has a lot of heart, and I'm not trying to put a big downer on them. The fourth quarter comebacks really do show that. But heart isn't enough to get past this Falcons team.
No, I don't think so. And you're right. It's a double-edged sword when you talk about fourth quarter comebacks because That's what scares me. If it's a tight game with the Lions, there's no guarantee you're going to hold them off. You know, Matt Stafford, his stats don't look great, but those fourth quarter comebacks sure do on him. But would you rather have a team that needs to make 8 fourth quarter comebacks, or would you rather have a team like the Falcons that plays prevent defense in half the games they've played this year because they're up so big? You know, I'd take that second option.
Exactly. So I'm saying let's hope we get the Lions. If we get the Cowboys or the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, then let's see what happens. But thanks again for joining us, Steve. And this has been Sweet Georgia Sports, and we'll see you next time.